Hello, Outfest family.
Hello to our Outfest audience.
What's going on, girlfriend?
Hey there, baby, I'm a survivor. Don't take no shortcuts when I'm the driver. Hey there, baby, I'm a survivor. Don't take no shortcuts when I'm a driver.
I need to channel something like that.
Absolutely.
Thank you for watching our digital festival.
Whoa, it's just so great.
Hello, Outfest. I'm Mike Doherty. I'm the Director of Festival Programming for Outfest, and I want to welcome you all to our live Q&A event with the director and writer of our breakthrough centerpiece, The Obituary of Tunde Johnson. Before we start, I just want to thank you all for watching here. This is a free to watch live event, but we also have our digital festival going on right now at outfest.org. You can log on there and buy an all access pass for a very reasonable price and see our lineup that included over 160 films this year, which in this era when festivals are in a troublesome place, it was so fantastic to be able to do this for you, our audience. Please join outfest.org and spread the word. But now I want to move on to our conversation about our breakthrough centerpiece, The Obituary of Tunde Johnson. I'm very excited that we're able to share this film with you. Hopefully you've watched it on our platform already, but if you haven't, get on after this conversation and take a look. It'll be available on the platform from now until the end of Saturday. And without further ado, I want to bring our moderator for this conversation in. Please help me welcome Laquan Dawson.
Hello, thank you, Mike. Thank you.
Of course, thank you for being with us. I'm going to leave you to it, and thank you all for watching.
Hi, you all. My name is Laquan Dawson. I'm a New York-based filmmaker. Tonight, I will be your moderator, and I'd like to thank Outfest and GLAAD firstly. Additionally, I want to say congratulations on the film to Leroy and Stanley and the entire team. It was beautiful. I've watched it 10 times over studying this film. Yeah, and thank you for doing it. I'm really impressed and proud. The Obituary of Tunde Johnson is a film directed by Ali Leroy and written by Stanley Kalu, who will join us now. The movie follows Tunde Johnson, a Black teenager who starts his summer by coming out to his family. Throughout the movie, we observe Tunde as he becomes a victim to police brutality on loop. Can you share with us, you guys, once you join? Hi, Ali. Hi, Stanley.
Hey. Yeah.
First,
I was here, but I don't know what happened. Now I'm gone.
I'll leave you, man. What's going on?
While we're figuring that out, can you guys, I see it now. Can you guys share with me first, what inspired you guys to tell the story? What made you need it to be told?
I can talk about that from a writing perspective. For me, I came into America, and I'd been a majority my entire life. And coming here, you immediately become monolithic Black, something depersonalized and something dehumanized. I was very, very honestly depressed the first 2 years of college, trying to understand what I was feeling, because I did not understand it. And I could not conceive that people would treat me less than because of the color of my skin. So for me, when I was writing it, I was really trying to climb out and kind of understand the concepts of attacks against identity, which I think is immoral, and I think is largely what's going on in America today. So it was for myself in a real sense, in a mental health sense, in a I need to grow sense, but more than that, I kept witnessing people that looked like me, tall, dark-skinned people, Black people, die every day on screen. It was the only thing I had. It was the only thing I had. Yeah.
Writing this and working on this.
Yeah.
You know, for me, the subject matter is something that was unfamiliar. You know, I mean, we've certainly seen a wide variety of takes on, you know, violence against Black people in America and what that looks like. But what was striking to me about this piece of work is that it functioned in an alternate reality. You know, the idea of the time loop and being able to make this story something like really contemporary and then also fresh in the approach, you know, was something that I just felt like, all right, this hasn't, you know, I haven't seen this on screen before, right? And we didn't have a ton of resources in terms of being able to do this, but the idea that, you know, it skewed sci-fi, it had this, you know, this social activist bent to it, you know, it was contemporary, it was looking at Black people in the now and not in the 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. And nothing's wrong, you know, like all of those stories are important to be told, but you know, I think that's a way of removing the sting of what this country has done to us. Right? It's easy to kind of, you know, find a place to deal with it at this comfortable distance of, you know, well, that happened 50 years ago and it's better now. It's not better now. 2 days ago. Like this, you know, and I'm not going to go on, but you know, in the time since we, you know, completed the film, it has shockingly become more relevant.
It's aging. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I mean, you want your movie to be successful, but at the same time, you'd be like, damn, they quit killing Black people. What are we gonna do?
Stanley, you made a note about what this did for your mental health, and I know that you wrote this when you were 19 and you're in college, which is very young, and it's also one of the ages of, you know, the people who we are seeing getting murdered by police. So I wonder what filming this did for, if it did the same thing as writing it, but like you know, the 3 weeks that you guys filmed, and we're seeing these images come to life and like over and over as you're doing takes and takes. What did that do for your mental health, and how did you and like the team kind of like keep it, you know, together in a sense? Because I'll let you answer after this. Even like watching it, and I watched it over and over, you know, just to make sure like I had everything down. But in watching it over and over, I'm also like watching Tunde get strangled over and over and over, and it's already happening in the film over and over. So it's a lot of imagery, and it kind of was like messing me up for a second. Like, sheesh. So I wonder what that did to you guys, and what it did to the team, and how you guys kind of kept it together, and if you were, you know, communicating on set and things like that.
I mean, I think first I have to note, obviously this is a dream come true for me. And it was on set, and that set has become my family.
Yeah.
And I 100% enjoyed the experience. Now from a police brutality standpoint, it was incredibly difficult. The particular scene that you are talking about left every Black person individually. Every Black person, when we shot that, had to exit at different times. I went to a bathroom and wept my eyes out for 10 minutes. I know that Ali had to take some time. I know that Stephen certainly had to take some time. I remember even the cop that was acting the strangling, when we were, you know, having dinner, profusely kept apologizing to Stephen. Profusely was like, was it too hard? Was it, you know, and, you know, felt something very, very visceral. So I think in terms of management, you know, we all knew what the film was about and we all knew what we were getting into. But the weight of each death, particularly, like, even if you understand it as fiction, still rings true, because it's too close to reality to look, you know?
I mean, it was, you know, the last death in the film was, you know, very, very difficult. And you know, my particular intention around it was to really drive home how desensitized a person needs to become in order to, strangle a person. I mean, there are forms of violence that are, that are less immediate. You don't feel the physical or the emotional impact and, of what you've done. But to put hands on a person and keep those hands on a person and to drain the life out of them is an incredibly specific and callous act. And so the odd thing about it is, we have this sequence in the film and it really only lasts a couple of minutes, and that's just sitting there watching it, and it's incredibly uncomfortable. And, in the wake of, George Floyd's murder and attending some of the subsequent protests, at a lot of these, at a lot of these protests, there were these moments of silence, and, people would take a knee for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And if you just sit quietly for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, the shock of how long that actually is, becomes devastating. So just, and we didn't have that particular, point as an example, in this film. We were drawing from other examples, but that particular one and the amount of time, so in an odd way, I don't know, it was just very difficult. It was a very difficult thing to shoot, and it called for a lot of, it was intense there, and there's a lot of involvement, and everyone, like Steve, brother, like Stanley said, in their own way, just had to, take some time to recover because it was trauma.
To segue a little bit, I want to know, so this is obviously a queer love story, which, I'm like obsessed with, but I also saw this to be in more directly, I saw it to be a Black story, a story about a Black boy, a gay Black boy who's worried about his survival, even though he's like in a good neighborhood and his parents have money and like a nice car and, all the things. Tunde still can't escape his anxiety around being a Black man, even with like all these things. I saw the white people in this film to be kind of a device to frame his anxiety and really like kind of emphasize and highlight like how marginalized he is. And I want to know if you can maybe elaborate more on like how much of this reflects on your own experience coming from Nigeria.
Yes.
Like what did it look like there, and then to come here and then to start seeing all these things, like, and like you said, you were culture shocked, and I also wonder like if you still are.
Okay, so first on the white people. Yeah, we just have to talk about that real quick.
Yeah.
My idea and my structure about that is to highlight the isolation, to highlight the marginalization, but more importantly, and on a deeper note, to showcase how, all right, so you have the socio-political violence that's happening in the film, that's up here. But to showcase how that mirrors with microaggressive, just general day-to-day emotional labor that Black people have to do in white spaces. I see those as parallels, right? It's a similar idea on damage, whether that's body or whether that's soul. When we're talking about culture shock, absolutely. I'm culture shocked because this is a first world country, and they kill people that look like us, like animals. And I think it would be incredibly difficult to not be culture shocked when you see that every day. When this happens 2 days ago, when this happened a couple months ago, it's always a shock. And I think it's a shock to every Black person, honestly, around the world.
Yeah.
Whether whether you're African, whether you're from Jamaica, like, just the general diaspora really does understand and is beginning to really understand the toll and the violence that is going on in this country. So yes, I'm culture shocked.
I like the fact, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate the fact that you describe it as a love story, because it is.
Yeah.
You know, it's set against the backdrop of, you know, this particular brand of violence, but at the heart of it, you know, it's a person trying to find a connection in the world with another person, and what he thinks it takes to do that
Yeah.
is, you know, that's the thing that shifts, you know, in his perception of where and how he belongs in the world. And so the idea that that type of story, you know, centered around a Black experience, again, was something that was incredibly unique about this film. And, you know, so, you know, I'm a Black man living in America, have all of my life, and have this, you know, the notions of code switching and everything else is something I'm incredibly familiar and comfortable with. So it was really fascinating, and to get a true outsider's perspective. You know, it's, you know, in a version of The Emperor Has No Clothes, Stanley comes into this circumstance and is immediately traumatized by it.
Absolutely.
And we have become so accustomed to it that while we still do get upset, you know,
Yeah.
we also have come to understand that it's this, you know, gargantuan notion that sometimes is just impossible to confront. You know, it's like, it's this summer. This summer has drained, you know, us mentally, physically, and emotionally, and it's been
Oh gosh, yeah.
thrown into the spotlight. And so, like, you know, it's a microcosm of what happens so much that we just kind of quit trying. And then every now and again, something so egregious happens that it shocks us out of it again. And we go,
Yeah.
well, shit, wait a minute, it's not over yet. Anyway.
Hmm. Ali, I wanted to know, this is your feature film directorial debut, right? This is your first? Yeah. That's congratulations on that again. It was wonderful. But I want to know, kind of with the thematic differences of like this and your previous work. I would say there's you know, there's no comedy in this. So I think it's a lot more serious and dramatic. That compared to like some of your past work, and you know, it's a lot longer too. It's a lot longer, but at the same time it's a lot shorter because you don't have like so much time to tell it in like
Right.
episodes. So I want to know, I don't know if you could speak to that, with the difference in like your experience and like what your past work is, compared to this thematically and process wise, and how did that affect the way that you directed this?
Well, you know, Tears of a Clown, right? Uh, every comedian that you're ever going to talk to, if you actually have the opportunity to sit down and talk to them, you will find out that they have opinions, viewpoints, experiences that they are drawing from, which tend to be, you know, difficult.
Yeah.
You know, and I started out as a stand-up, and you know, and that segued me into the space of, you know, performing and, you know, and writing comedy. But that becomes sort of your you know, you know, it's almost like you're trying to perform your way out of your trauma, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, this is the way I address my difficulties, is that I'm able to speak on it, you know, in this space, and it comes from all these tough things that I've gone through, and so I found some kind of release, and that allows me, you know, to manage it.
Yeah.
And people have varying degrees of success with that, you know. But what you also find with anybody who's funny is that at a point, shit ain't that funny no more. You know, it's like at a point you can get very tired of trying to make people laugh to get your point across. It's like, I don't need you to laugh no more. I just need you to hear this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't feel like performing, you know, my way through my pain so that it's comfortable for you to address it, deal with it, think about it. You know, Dick Gregory, you know, arguably had one of the most difficult experiences around that entire idea, right? And we've seen a wide variety of people who are funny transition into spaces that are a lot more serious in terms of their approach. Even what we just saw Cat Williams do with Supreme, and what we saw Dave Chappelle do with
Dave Chappelle's last stuff was very serious.
it's, yeah, it's just like, man, I can be funny.
Yeah,
I can.
have done it.
Yeah, but sometimes shit ain't funny no more. And so that's something that's already there. So in terms of rendering it, you know, as a storyteller, because Stanley wrote this amazing script, what it allowed me to do was really think about what that's supposed to look like. How do I want to render it? What cultural reference points do I want to bring into it? And how many levels can it function on? The level of the love story, the level of the socio-political,
Yeah.
the level of the diaspora, like all of these things are in play there. And so being able to lend a hand in bringing each aspect of that to life, and even humanizing the white people in this space, and not turning them into caricatures,
Yeah.
from the guy who is this conservative talk show host,
Newscaster. Uh-huh.
to his to Marley, Tunde's best friend, and the realities of who she is in the world and how that works for her. And so the idea of taking all these characters and really being attuned to their humanity, I think, for me, style wise, I've moved a lot around this country. Here's a funny thing, and I'm not gonna go too far on this, but the first screenplay I ever wrote was an experiment, and it was a story about my days traveling as a comedian, and it was just about two black guys being in Maine, like literally moving around the state of Maine. And the notion behind it was a comedy, was that the people in Maine hadn't seen black people before. So every time they saw the black people, they'd stop paying attention to what they were doing, and they would like crash into a wall or fucking blow up a gas station or some shit, just because they were just staring. Like,
Sure.
and so it was just this whole notion of not belonging,
Mm.
and how the people who viewed the outsiders began to demonize them and believe that they somehow had some set of powers and abilities that was disrupting, their entire space and place and lives, as opposed to people just walking around trying to get something to eat.
Yeah.
Right. So, I just bring a lot of that, to the table, and the humanity of it, and the colors, shades are the things that I really wanted to try to bring to life. And Stanley wrote an amazing script, so that made it easier.
Thanks, man.
It was great, and the characters were so very human and so well written and rounded. From There was no character you could like, okay, like this is the villain. Like I hate them straight through. It's like, oh, like there nobody, like everybody was a person, and that was like really beautifully done. I just want to say, and then two, I want to ask now. I noticed that want and desire are heavy themes in the film. Tunde like expresses to his therapist that like all he's ever wanted was to be able to come out to his parents. And then he's telling Soren, I want us, I want you. And so like we know what like the things that are important to him right now, like what he wants. And he's still stressed about like, this thing, but this was like lighter for him. Whereas with Soren, it's light in comparison, it was lighter for him. Whereas for Soren, this seemed to be like something that was so like he had more to lose or something. Like he wasn't there to come out yet. And I thought it was interesting, just kind of like that contrast, because normally you would think that Tunde might have more to lose.
Right. I think so. So one, it was very, very important to me that I consciously attacked and like refused to do the cliche of Black people being anti.
Yeah.
I think the symbol of seeing that acceptance is so vital and so important and so necessary for people to see, because
touching
generational standpoint, we're all right, like all of that is very normalized within my age range. So I wasn't going to play this game of making it traumatic for him. I think second, when I was working with this triangle, this love triangle, I kept thinking to myself, like, the most tragic thing about it is that everyone wants something that the other person cannot give. It's not that they don't want to give it. you know, which is a different thing. They simply cannot for situations that are outside of their control. And now Ali's favorite part.
So my favorite part, and as tragic as this film is for me, I honestly feel like the most tragic character is Soren, because we leave him in a fairly desperate place, right?
Yeah.
And the difficult irony of it is that what we understand in the telling of this story is that he doesn't realize that this pose that his father has, to make money and make a living is inauthentic. He doesn't understand that that's an act.
Mm.
Right? He doesn't understand that when confronted with the choice of accepting someone's totality and their humanity and loving them as a person, he doesn't understand that his father has the capacity to do that. So he keeps his secret, right?
Yeah.
and like that's really the most tragic thing. Even though Tunde is heartbroken, he has truth, right? And Soren is left with denial, and how long will this ruse go on, and how
Yeah.
tragic will it ultimately become, and who else is he gonna hurt trying to maintain this pose, right? So I mean, like that's the real tragedy, in this love story, right? Which has nothing to do with the specter of violence that Tunde is experiencing as a metaphor for the damage that he's doing to himself by being in the relationship.
Yeah. There's a scene we referenced it earlier, but I didn't mention that the scene where Tunde is getting attacked by the officer in the white father's presence. It flips at toward the end. It flips from Soren embracing Tunde, and then to the Tunde and the cop, and it goes back and forth a little bit, and in a way that Soren is this cop in a way. His face is like over top of it, and I was wondering, what can you talk to me about this image, and like what made you include it, and what were you trying to communicate?
I mean, there's for me, there's sort of there are parallels, there's transference. The people who love you are the people who are capable of doing the most damage to you,
Mm-hmm.
because you are most open and most vulnerable to them. And the flip side of that is that the people who admire you, love you, care for you, or not care for you, but find you special in some regard. It's the same thing. They have the capability of doing the most damage because of envy or jealousy. So literally, it's any emotion, any feeling, that doesn't find, its own life, that doesn't find a way to be expressed, can become something else, right? It transformed. If it isn't, allowed to come out into the light and be whatever it is, whether it's anger or love or passion or humor, anything that's suppressed can mutate and become a different thing. So the idea that characters, act towards someone, in shockingly different ways, it's tricky sometimes to think that the actions can originate with the same set of feelings, gone two different paths.
Yeah. I want to know what, and this is not meant to be an offensive question or anything, but I want to ask you both, in your experience and what you've seen, and just like what's in your mind, how would the story have been different if Tunde's lover was a black man?
Wow. I have to think about that one. I have to say.
Mm-hmm. Well,
It would have, for me, it's almost like it becomes a lot more nuanced, right? Because then now we're having the all Black Lives Matter argument, right? Because in the Black community as a whole, when you hear the argument, Black Lives Matter, that's a group of people struggling to be, seen and be able to live and experience, a decent life. And then inside that group of people are another group of people who are saying, yeah, I'm part of this larger group, but I'm getting discriminated against inside that group. Right? So yeah, I don't have to go to the white man to get people to fuck me over. I got you people. Like, you guys are doing a fine job of making my life miserable.
Yeah.
So the idea that if Soren was a black character, it would force us to confront our own prejudices, and really sit down and look at what is the reality of how are the LGBTQ community, embraced inside, the black community, diaspora, what have you, and we know that is with varying degrees of acceptance all the way to, extreme violence. And so, that's kind of like cleaning your own house. And we certainly do need to have that conversation. We need to hear those stories, and that is something that needs to be addressed. But unfortunately, it's like, we'll get to that in a second, but first we gotta stop these white people from killing us.
That's real.
Like,
That's a good answer.
I'm gonna have all of the prejudice and bad ideas I have, but I won't be killing you because you're black. And that's at least one thing we could take off the table, even though you might be homophobic, transphobic, or whatever it is, we can address that. But, it's like, we have a bigger enemy right now, and that's the tsunami of whiteness trying to wipe us out.
That's a good answer. I appreciate that.
I'm from just a character basis. I think there would have been a lot more shame. A lot more shame involved because of their age range and because of already being outside, an other within that space. I think it would have been a story of two people really trying to come into themselves and move past shame and move past the sort of like masculine identity that Black people are taught very, very early. It would really have to take to task Black masculinity as a whole, which would be very interesting. Maybe you should write it.
Well, I just wanted to, I'm gonna do a quick baby shout out here. I know we're here to talk about our work, but I think that the work that Michaela Cole is doing on I May Destroy You in that same space is tackling that in a contemporary space, and she's just doing some amazing work. And in her own way, Katori Hall on P Valley is doing, again, traveling through this space in a way that's making us confront our notions of what we expect from people and what right do we have to project onto them our norms, our standards, our ideas, if whatever way it is that, anyone is living works for them. How does me being happy make your life bad?
Yeah. Well, that's all the time we have. Thank you both so much. This film was beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. It'll be up on outfest.com for the next few days. Outfest.com. The movie is called The Obituary of Tunde Johnson. Thank you both again for being with me. Thank you, Outfest, for having me. Thank you, Glad. My name is Laquan Dawson. I'm very grateful. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for joining us. And I'll have a great night.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right.